Today we are finally going to talk about Coach Carter. That's not right. Cowboy Carter, Beyonce's country album. Now, it's been about a week that the album has been out, but I wanted to give myself time to listen to it all the way through several times. 27 tracks. I didn't know if more was coming out. She's already released one remix. So I wanted to kind of wait before I weighed in on my opinions on the album. Before I get into this video though, I want to say, I know that this channel, this space, is not a Beehive sanctioned area. And what I mean by that is I'm a Beyonce fan. However, the last time I tried to talk about Beyonce, when I made this video right here, this is pretty much how that conversation went in the comment section before I was like, all right, I'm out. Y'all have it.
It's St. Patrick's Day.
We really don't give a fuck. It's not a major holiday.
It's really not, bitch. You act like it's fucking Christmas or something. Fuck you and St. Patrick's.
So if you clicked on this video and you do not like Beyonce, I am going to ask you a serious question. Why are you watching? If you don't like Beyonce, this is not the video for you. Click out, click out, click out. I'll see you next time. For those of you who are still here and who are still hanging around, let us go ahead and talk about Cowboy Carter. So as I said before, this is an album, or as I've said before, this is an album that I was really excited about. I was excited about Beyonce doing country. I knew why she was doing it. In the video that I made, in this one right here, I said that feeling of not being validated or feeling like you're pushed out or you don't have access to a space that you should have access to is very, very, it can have different effects. I felt like Beyonce had kind of like, I will avenge myself. That was kind of her vibe. I remember when I was in high school, my senior year, I had this English teacher who hated me, and I do not blame him. I do not blame him, but he hated me. And one day he asked the class a question. He goes, how many of you have done something just because somebody else told you couldn't do it? And I raised my hand, because that's like 99% of how some people can get me like to accomplish a task. Just say, I don't believe in you, you can't do it. And then I'm like a angry little badger and I have to get it done. But I raised my hand and I looked around and I was the only one in the class with the hand raised. Now this was a AP GT English class and I was the dumbest person in there, but I worked really hard. And I don't know, I was very honest about the fact that, hey, I've done that. You tell me I can't do it, whatever. So nobody else raised their hand. Everybody was kind of looking at me like, and I didn't know why. I was like, what's the issue? And then my teacher, he goes, what a small-minded, weak, and petty individual to let the desires of your life or like what you want to do be dictated by other people's judgments. That is not the kind of, and he said some other stuff and I pretty much blocked him out because I was like, I know I'm not the only person who's motivated like this. I know it's not just me. In life, you're going to have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. There's going to be things that you naturally want to do. And it's like, I don't care what anybody says, like I'm getting this done. And then there's going to be things that are activated within you, literally because someone on the outside might have said, I don't think you can do that. It happens all the time, okay? So Beyonce making this album and posting this on her Instagram and saying, hey, this came from a time where people told me no. So I felt I owed it to myself to keep going and to say yes. That, for me, validated little 17-year-old Stephanie. And, hey, it's petty or not petty. It gets things done. Again, I don't judge that teacher because we had really gone at it, man. I almost didn't graduate high school because of him. Anyway, well, because of me. Let's move on. So I understood that portion of why Beyonce made this album. What I didn't know was her deep, deep roots in like in country culture. So like cowboy culture, being around, participating in things in certain ways. I'm from Houston, Texas. Beyonce's from Houston, Texas. I've been to the rodeo twice my whole life. It was it wasn't a thing for me. I mentioned in my other video that I posted yesterday, if going somewhere seems like it's gonna be too difficult, I tend to not want to do it. And the rodeo was always parking and lines and crowds and so it wasn't always an enjoyable thing. So I didn't try and fight to get there. But the couple times I have been, I've had a good time. And I know there's so much about the rodeo culturally that goes into its production and the people that participate in it. And because I don't have a personal connection to that, rarely think about it. But for example, when Beyonce came out with her artwork for Cowboy Carter, there were a lot of people who said, oh gosh, she's being so patriotic. That's disgusting. But she actually had dressed herself up like a Texas rodeo queen. I didn't even know what a rodeo queen was. In her website that she recently posted, the Ben Country website, which as of me recording this, I'm not exactly sure what's going to go on there. She has a photo of herself participating in some type of Texas pageant. And so while I was aware that this album came from a place of her feeling locked out or not validated by a certain sector of the music world, I was not aware of her connections when it came to that part of being a Texan. And so that was eye-opening for me. And I think there's so much more there that she actually hasn't shared. We know Beyonce, she's going to share it when she's ready to share it. But yeah, I thought that was very enlightening to me, because it made me have to go and do some research and look some things up that I would not have looked up otherwise. The other thing I love about this album is that it proves that there's so many people out there who are fans of things and like things that they're not supposed to like. If you are a child of color and you grew up in the suburbs, specifically if you are a Black child, and if this didn't happen to you, then it didn't happen to you, okay? Then it is what it is. But I've seen so many people share the story, and I know that it was my reality. People telling you what you can and can't be into because of the color of your skin or because of your culture, where you come from. There were so many times where there was an artist that I liked or a fashion style that I liked, and I was told, well, you can't like that because you're a Black girl. I remember being, once again, in an English class, okay, but a different year. And when I was young, like in the early 2000s, surfer chic, think Laguna Beach, was really cool. So like puka shell necklaces and Roxy board shorts, all that stuff. And I was always somebody who paid attention to the trends. I may not always carry them out, but I love knowing what's going on. And I loved that stuff. I loved like the little shirts that said Roxy on them and the shell necklaces and I loved surfer chic. And I used to work at a store, and down the road there was a like a little clothing store where you could go in and buy all of these things. And so on my break, I would go in and just look. I never bought anything because it was like over my budget. I was on a Mervyn's budget at the time. If you remember Mervyn's, if you know, you know. And I don't mean to do that in a J-Lo way. Like, if you know, you know, chime in. Mervyn's was a cheap place to get a lot of stuff. And that's where my mom would shop for us. But this store was expensive, but I loved looking at this stuff. Loved it. And one day I was sitting in class and they're talking about what people can wear. And, you know, I had them zoned out. I wasn't really listening, but a girl goes, Black people don't wear Billabong. Billabong was another brand that was like popular at the time. And what's funny is Billabong is a surf brand, but Billabong, that word is an Aboriginal word. And Aboriginal people are people of color from Australia. So it's, that whole company is appropriating in a way, but this child didn't know that. And so she says, Black people don't wear Billabong, just loud and with her whole chest. And I'm like, what y'all talking about? So I tuned into the conversation. I raised my little hand and I was like, if you go get me a Billabong shirt right now, I'll put it on in this moment. Don't tell me what I can and can't wear. You know, whatever. It got kind of heated in that room. But that was something I ran into a lot, and not just from the kids that I was raised around, but also from other Black people. You know, you listening to that? Well, that's white music. You know that's we don't do. And what this album has revealed to me is that a lot of us be tuning in and listening to stuff. A lot of us have multifaceted and varied artists that we tune into and that are a part of the fabric of who we are as people. But for a long time, we are very observant, or it's very popular to be very observant of the fact that that's not a common thing to own up to or to claim to. And also when you think about just trying to make sure that Black artists get out there and have an opportunity, a lot of times they have that opportunity because of word of mouth, because of push from Black audiences. And so it's like, you know, we have to concentrate on our own. We can't be, you know, talking about all these other artists. Our own need our attention. So what I love about this album is that it's very clear me and Beyonce have been listening to the same things. And there's a lot of music that is just a general part of the fabric of who you are if you grew up in this country, regardless of the color of your skin. And country music is a part of that. And I can remember, you know, I wasn't raised listening to a lot of artists because I didn't get I didn't get involved in country until I was older. So like in high school, middle school and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people from like the 90s that and further back that I don't know of. So like George Strait, Garth Brooks, I'm not really familiar. Reba McEntire, I don't know a lot. But then when you talk about the artists of the 2000s and the 90s, I know a little bit. And if you grew up in that time, then you know all about, let's see, the Dixie Chicks and the Faith Hills and the Shania Twains and the Martina McBrides. And then the early 2000s or like the later 2000s, Rascal Flatts was like huge. And then I got really into folk music at one time. So like Patty Griffin was big. And so listening to this album, like I said, it just reminds me that it's like it was like giving my inner child a hug. Like it was always okay to want to listen to these things and have them be a part of the fabric of who you were. And I love the fact that Beyonce is claiming that space for so many people who look like me. I love seeing people post themselves going to places dressed in their full Western gear and doing line dances. I love that her opening the door and doing this art provides a way for people who may have felt like it's off limits because of the color of my skin, because of the culture that I come from. I love that it's no longer off limits. We can be there too. And so that's something that I love about Cowboy Carter. And now let's get into the actual songs. I'm gonna start off with my favorites from the album first, and then I'm gonna talk about a song that I absolutely hate, and y'all are gonna be like, what? But it is what it is. My favorites from the album, of course, I love the two singles. I love 16 Carriages, and I love Texas Hold'em. Texas Hold'em makes me dance so much. I can't wait to like see her. I don't know if I'm gonna go to the concert, if she does a concert. I don't know. Because Renaissance stressed me out. You know, once again, it's that whole, I don't like being stressed out when I go to do stuff. So I don't know, we'll see. But I wanna dress up, so we'll see. But anyway, I love Texas Hold'em. I love, you know what, let me let me look, because it is 27 songs. Bodyguard is amazing. Daughter, I love. Just for Fun is so good to me. Like I listen to that song is almost, I don't know, it's like almost like a meditation type song for me. Like it's just so beautiful. It lines up with a lot of beautiful country duets that I've heard in my life. I love that song. Love Most Wanted. Most Wanted is stuck in my head right now. It's been in my head all day. Levi's Jeans is very sexy. Levi's Jeans is sexy. Levi's Jeans is how I figured out that I can't do like a simple 1, 2, cha-cha-cha move. I don't know. I was trying to like do some kind of dance in my room when it was on. Can't do it. I love Linda Martell's show. I love Yaya. Yaya is dangerous. I've seen a couple people make memes about the song and how they can't listen to it while they're driving because then their car will end up like this. And, you know, same. I love Riverdance. I love Sweet Honey Buckin', and I love Amen. American Requiem is good, and I think American Requiem is important, especially because so many people, a big issue that they have with Beyonce right now is that she's not as politically outspoken as they would have expected her to be. And I love the fact that in that song, to me, it seems like she is acknowledging the weight of the multi-dimensional reality of being from this country and not being completely ashamed by it. You know, there are people who will say in today's day and time, they will say, I don't want to be an American. I don't want to live here. I want to figure out how to get out. This country sucks, et cetera, et cetera. But everybody doesn't feel that way. And when you don't feel that way and you are eyes wide open to all of this country's atrocities, and then at the same time, the good things that have done, the good things that have been done. And then at the same time, the way this country has broken your heart. There's so much to hold in your soul at one time. And I hear her trying to hold all of those things in American Requiem. A lot of people like Spaghetti. Spaghetti is it's fun. It's good. It's not, Spaghetti is blatantly not a country song. It's blatantly not country. When Beyonce says this is not an album, or this is not a country album, it's a Beyonce album, she's talking about Spaghetti. Spaghetti's blatantly not country. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about the song that I absolutely hate. It's Jolene. The thing is I've actually always hated that song. I have never, when I would hear it, when I was a child growing up, and you know, there are artists that come seeping through that you hear about, and it's like, okay, what's this person about? And they would say, we have Dolly Parton. Okay, what'd she do? Well, she sings that 9 to 5 song. Love it. She sings this. Okay. She also sings this. and I heard Jolene for the first time, I was like, oh, not for me. I don't like it. I don't like the way it sounds at all. It doesn't matter who sings it. And I know there was a lot of uproar about, there's been a lot of criticism of Beyonce about her changing the lyrics, about her being violent in Jolene instead of begging and being desperate, about her maybe not singing as hard, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The song sucks, period, to me. It doesn't matter who sings it. It doesn't matter if Dolly sang it. It doesn't matter if Miley sang it. It doesn't matter if Beyonce. I hate that song. And I've always hated that song. And I think maybe, and no offense, but maybe it's because I don't like the name Jolene. Maybe that's what it is. If that's your name, I'm sorry. But I don't like that. I don't, Jolene, 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 Jolene. I don't like it. Ooh, I don't like it. It doesn't matter who sings it. But I like the fact that Beyonce got to sing it because it's such a powerful song in the history of country music. And this whole album is about her claiming her right to be here and to take up that history because she is a American citizen who was raised in country culture, and she's a musician, and she's allowed to experiment with her genres as she sees fit. I also want to say Blackbird is incredibly important to me. When I was a child in the early 2000s, a lot happened then. Those were my teenage years. 2004, a movie comes out called I Am Sam. And the movie, the entire soundtrack is Beatles songs, but it's sung by a bunch of different artists. And I was like, what are these songs? I didn't know nothing about the Beatles. Again, I'm raised in a household where my parents weren't really sonically well, they didn't like the Beatles. So I didn't hear a lot about the Beatles at all when I was growing up. And I Am Sam comes out, this album comes out, all these songs are the Beatles, and I hear Strawberry Fields Forever for the first time, sung by Ben, what's his name? I'll put it up here on the screen. I hear Don't Let Me Down for the first time. I hear Try to See It My Way for the first time. And I hear Blackbird for the first time. And I think that was Sarah McLachlan. And I was like, what are these songs? So then that sent me on a journey to figure out who the Beatles were and what they were doing and how they impacted music. And then as I'm going through life from about 2000 to 2010, there was a lot of art that came out that had to do with the Beatles. So we got that I Am Sam album that comes out, and then I feel like that's when the Cirque du Soleil show about the Beatles came out. And then in 2006, I went and studied abroad in London for a summer, and we actually went to Liverpool and we did Abbey Road, and we walked across Abbey Road and we went to the studio where they recorded some of their first albums, went to the bar where they were discovered. So I had that kind of hands-on connection to the Beatles. And then in 2007, Across the Universe came out. And that song, that movie was so brilliant. And if you've seen it, then you know all the songs in there are Beatles songs, and it takes you through what it was like being a young teenage kid in love, being asked to fight in Vietnam. There's all these things, and it's set to the Beatles soundtrack, and all these different artists came in and performed on that soundtrack. And I'll never forget the hold that the specific rendition of Let It Be on this soundtrack has on me and had on me at that time, because 2007, I was going through it. I always point to Britney Spears, her 2007. Okay, it was very similar to mine, except for mine wasn't recorded. And that Let It Be was just like, every time I would hear it, I would just burst into tears. So anyway, walking away from that, I had this connection to a couple of different Beatles songs at that time. One of them was Blackbird, which just spoke to me so much. And the other one was Here Comes the Sun. And so I wanted to get this tattoo at the time where I was going to get a lotus flower, which represents beauty amidst really murky situations. And out of the lotus, I wanted blackbirds flying out. And then underneath that, I wanted Here Comes the Sun. So that was a lot for a person who only has one tattoo and barely made it through that whole process a long time ago. I've only got the one, and So I went to the tattoo studio. I had him draw it out. And I went home and I sat with myself and I was like, girl, you're not going to be able, you don't like it. It's painful to me. So I chickened out, but That's how much those songs meant to me. That's how much Blackbird meant to me. That's how much Here Comes the Sun. So when I found out that Beyonce was singing Blackbird, and then I heard it, I was like, immediate tears came to my eyes. And it's so important too because of the artist that she's featured on this album and because of the cultural significance of the song Blackbird. I had no idea that it was related to the civil rights movement until this album came out. And that is why it is so important too that she has all these Black country artists on there. I would have enjoyed hearing more of their voices kind of isolated on the song, but it is what it is. People came for Beyonce for her Jolene cover. They also came for her Blackbird cover. And what I like about Beyonce is she is a person who people in the industry are not afraid to say, hey, don't talk about her. Don't criticize her that way. I know her. I gave her the permission. You know, Dolly Parton was like, she has my permission. I love what she did. And Paul McCartney came out and he said, she is exactly the person that I would have wanted to cover this. She's connected to it. And I think she did a beautiful job. Leave her alone. So I really, really liked that back and forth about Blackbird. And it's also a significant song for me on this project. All right, that is my short little review of Cowboy Carter and why it means so much to me. Oh, I forgot to add this. I struggled initially in the beginning with the visuals for the album. I mentioned that in the comment section of a video I made a little while ago, but I said, you know, the big hair, the big blonde hair, she's already coming in. And Beyonce already in general is able to present herself so ethnically and unambiguously. And ethnically ambiguously, yeah. Or allowed to present herself or able to present herself with a certain amount of ethnic ambiguity. And so what kind of message is it sending across that she's going to be doing this country music? And now she's fully leaning into representation that is a long way away from Black is King, right? Blonde hair and, whatever. And then I said to myself, not a single person has been able to let Beyonce forget that she is Black since she started making this work. And I think that makes her leaning into this presentation of herself while she's doing this album iconic. You're not going to let me forget, but I'm going to continue to show you that I can dress up in your costume. Look, because that's what it is, right? Anytime you put on the affectations of a particular culture or genre, it's just a costume you can take on and off. It's just something you can put on in order to play a role, but you yourself are bigger than whatever that is, and that's how I look at it. But anyway, I can put on these clothes, I can take pictures of myself in this way, and I can fully lean into this because it's a part of who I am and I want to. And no matter what I do, you're not going to let me forget what you think I am. So does it really matter? And that was definitely a kind of a tug of war that I had with myself. And now I'm just like, no, girl, like they say in some parts of Texas, the higher the hair, the closer to God. Tease it up, get a bigger blonde wig, do whatever you want to. I'm on board. Anyway, now my little Cowboy Carter review is over. I don't know, again, if I'm going to make it to the concert because Renaissance was stressful, but Renaissance was good. It was a good show. And like I said, I want to dress up. I have not done a lot of Western type things. I haven't done like a Western day since I was in 3rd grade. So this would be really fun. And okay, I'll go. I'll go to the concert. I don't even know if she's touring, but I'm gonna be there. If you are a Beyonce fan, what did you think about Cowboy Carter? What are some of your favorite songs? Please let me know. I would love to know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.